don't have to go to work. I get to go to work. I get to be here. It's a privilege for me to be here. Looking back, I realized that because I've been a stand-up comic for so long, that I had that kind of mindset when I came in, like it was just my time to be on stage now. So especially when you do sets in LA, there might be 10 comics on the bill and everybody gets like 10 minutes or 15 minutes or 8 comics, and there's like a bunch of people. And even when you're on the road, there's 3 comics. And so you always have to share the stage. And when you get on stage, you can't think to yourself, oh, somebody else was just on stage, I wonder how I'm going to do, or, anything like that. You just get up and do whatever time you have and try to make the best of it. And that's kind of like the underlying attitude I had, whether I liked it or not. I just didn't want to get the show canceled. I didn't want to be responsible for ruining the show, and I wanted to keep it alive because it was such an institution. And so I was that's the feeling. I was like, oh, I don't want to screw this up. I want to be the one that keeps it going. And once I got comfortable after a couple of years, it felt like it was more like my show instead of me just being a steward of somebody else's show, which is like the attitude I had when I first started. I thought, well, I can do this for a while. And now I think I just want to just do it forever, as long as I'm mentally and physically able to show up. It's such a fun thing for me to do. And, you need a sense of purpose and something to do, and the money's nice. And, but mostly it's just it's just a cool job to have that I don't even think of it as a job. I just think of it as, a blessing to me. So I don't have to go to work. I get to go to work. I get to be here. It's a privilege for me to be here. It's an honor for me to be here. Like, why would I give that up unless all of a sudden my memory started going or something? So we'll see how I hold up. It's such a common thing for me to I remember dating somebody early on, and they were like, why are you saying, you're sending hearts to all these friends and these female friends of yours and saying I love you? And I go, yeah, I say it to everybody. I text them with a heart. I tell them I love them, and I tell their husbands I love them when I say goodbye, and I tell their kids I love them when I say goodbye. It should be as common as saying hello and goodbye. There's nothing wrong with spreading love and saying I love you to people. And this idea that, men especially have to suppress the idea of saying I love you to somebody. I saw Paul McCartney in concert a few times, and he makes it a point to say on stage when he does the thing where he sings with a video of John, and he makes a point to say I love you to John. And he mentions on stage that when we were growing up, we were never allowed to say that, so we never told each other that we loved each other, as tight as they were and as close as they were. And it always breaks my heart to hear that and really only men get told they're not allowed to express love, and they're not allowed to hug, and they're not allowed to do these things, or they're weak, or they're somehow not masculine enough. It's ridiculous in our modern society that only in modern America and modern Western society was this not allowed, when it was common all throughout history and expected. I don't know why we stopped, but I think it's important to have that out there and make it a practice to tell people you love them. Yeah. Well, first of all, I didn't know what I was doing. So the first time I tried to kill myself, I was drinking. I had a couple beers, and I took a whole bottle of Sominex, which is not strong enough to do anything to you, death-wise. But it takes sleeping pills if you want to kill yourself. So I just swallowed all the Sominex. That's the only sleeping pills I knew of. And I didn't know about prescription sleeping pills at the time. I was too young. And then I told my fraternity brothers that I just took all these pills, and they took me to the medical center, and they gave me Ipecac and made me throw up. And I remember, hello to my fraternity brother, Paul. I remember, like, everybody knew it was going to be okay, but I was throwing up over the toilet from this Ipecac and just like feeling the worst. And my friend Paul was holding my shoulders while I threw up, and he started singing, "Take Sominex tonight and sleep, sleep, sleep." He started singing that song. Oh my God, that made me feel so much better as somebody who was able to joke about it. I saw a counselor. So at the time, like, the idea that somebody would see a psychiatrist would ruin your career. Everybody needs a therapist and everybody needs that kind of help, whether you're seeing a professional or not. Like when you go talk to a friend or a bartender or Reddit and look for answers on the internet, you're seeking therapeutic help for a problem you have. And why not see a pro that has a degree in psychology and how the brains work and what neurons do and how habits are formed and what really goes on, instead of going to a bunch of amateurs on Reddit or bartenders or your friends who only have the same experience that you do, who can't see outside the scope for what you need. Why, if you broke an arm, you wouldn't go to your buddy who knows first aid. You would go to a freaking doctor, that the best bone person you could afford to get your arm set. But don't you know people in your family or your friends group, acquaintances who have been sick, and then they tell you, yeah, I've been feeling this, but I didn't want to go to the doctor. I didn't want to bother the doctor. I didn't want to do the paperwork. I didn't want to take a day off work to take care. And now they have cancer, or they have something else that waited too long, or they have something that's going to be really hard to beat now because they waited 3 months, 6 months longer than they should have because they felt this ache or pain or this thing happening and they didn't seek any help. With regular therapy and regular checkups, regular dentist, like you can catch stuff ahead of time. Like you don't have to have anything going wrong with you to see a therapist. You just go because you don't want anything to go wrong with you, and keep on the path of your path of what you want out of your life. And I don't know, people in America, and especially men, are told not to do that. I've always had that. Like that's my way out of everything. Yeah, and that's like, I have no objection to people using like dark humor, because I know that's how they get through things and that's how they deal with things. Yeah, like when my friend Paul started singing Take Sominex Tonight and Sleep, that really made me laugh at while I was throwing up after thinking I wanted to kill myself. He made me laugh by making a joke. And knowing and he knew me well enough. He was one of my best friends at the time, and he knew me well enough to know that this was a playful time, a time he could be playful with me and not hurt me. And it was kind of perfect. Honestly, I'll never forget it as long as I live. First thing, make my bed, fluff the pillows, make it look like get ready for the people to come over who are going to buy the house. I want it to look like that. And when I cooked breakfast and I scrubbed everything down and got it disinfected, wiped down all the counters like I was working in a professional kitchen, and everything had to be spick and span and squared away. And it really kept me positive all during COVID. And the idea of like the work ethic that you learn from the Marine Corps and the confidence that you get from just done that, like nothing seems impossible for me because I was in the Marine Corps. I was like, why would I be afraid of that? I was in the Marine Corps.
Right.
Like, don't be afraid of this. You were in the Marine Corps. I always just remind myself, like, man, you did a thing that not a lot of people get to do. Like, a lot of people do it. I don't know. There's a lot of people who've been to the Marine. It's not like that singular, but it's rare. Not that many people percentage wise have decided, yes, I'm going to go through this 3 months of boot camp. And yes, I'm going to have this train of thought instilled in me and subject myself to this. But all that stuff really, really, really stuck with me. The self-discipline, the idea, like, the just idea of, yeah, you have to get up early for a week and do this thing that maybe you weren't looking forward to doing, but learn to make the most of it, make the best of it. And I got that from the Marine Corps, that kind of attitude. And, working out, that all came from the Marine Corps. I have so much to thank the Marine Corps for.